Dismissive avoidants tend to follow a very predictable pattern when it comes to relationships. They tend to have a relationship cycle. Let's get into what that cycle tends to look like. The first phase is loneliness, wanting love and connection. Even though they have deeply rooted insecurities that are based on consistent childhood emotional neglect, deep down in their core, dismissive avoidants long for love and connection. So they go out to find it. They go into the dating world, very commonly dating apps. And dating apps can actually be very addictive for dismissive avoidance, but that's a topic for another video. So they go out and date, and then they meet somebody. Phase 2, I think I found the right person. The dismissive avoidant is dating someone new, and they think they've got it right this time. This person is giving them validation, and they are on cloud 9. That dopamine, the reward hormone, is flying high in the dismissive avoidance brain, and it is suppressing all of their insecurities. And they're not even aware that those insecurities are even down there because they are so completely wrapped up in dopamine. And they think they've really got it right. They think this person is finally the one that they've been looking for. Now, dismissive avoidance, due to that childhood emotional neglect, grew up in households where they also weren't able to express themselves, and really processing and expressing emotions was unsafe. So they learned to suppress emotions. Well, now because of all that dopamine and their insecurities not being triggered, plus really wanting the validation from their partner because they are people pleasers at their core, they are love bombing this person. They are pouring out all of these bottled up and suppressed emotions, and they're flowing right out onto the person that they're dating. And they are really laying it on thick and heavy. And this person is also thinking that the dismissive avoidant is the one they've been looking for. And it feels like a connection and a chemistry that's out of this world. And the avoidant, they really do think they've got it right. Phase number 3, the spark is gone. Suddenly the relationship is becoming more real. It's probably somewhere between 4 to 8 months into the relationship when the honeymoon phase begins to end. The dopamine levels are coming down, which means those inner insecurities of the dismissive avoidant are no longer being masked. And due to those internal walls and the emotional neglect that they experienced in childhood, they never really oxytocin bonded to this partner that they're dating. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone. They can bond, but they have a limited capacity until they do that inner work. Well, now the insecurities are getting triggered. Healthy relationship behaviors are the triggers. Emotional closeness, which feels very unsafe to the dismissive avoidant. Maybe there were some disagreements. Conflict is very triggering to them. They weren't able to express themselves as a kid. They directly associate that with rejection. And maybe expectations. Maybe their new partner has expectations, even if it's just the bare minimum. It's very triggering to a dismissive avoidant because they often had a parent or parents that had very demanding high expectations on them that they felt that they could never meet. Due to that inner wound of shame that stems from that consistent emotional neglect, the dismissive avoidant feels defective inside. And expectations, conflict, closeness all trigger that defectiveness wound because now their subconscious is afraid that they're going to get exposed as being defective. So what they do is they start to detach emotionally. This is how they learn to protect themselves. So the dopamine's coming down, the infatuation is no longer there, their insecurities are getting triggered, but due to a lack of self-awareness and a lack of self-reflection, they think the spark is just gone, that they just are falling out of love and they're losing feelings. Stage number 4, I'm thinking of leaving. They're getting triggered, but they're not communicating it to their partner. They are still acting as if they're completely into the relationship, but they're definitely getting triggered and their urges to run are kicking in, but they haven't made up their mind just yet. Stage 5, I'm leaving. When I meet the right person, I won't feel this way. The dismissive avoidant has made up their mind to leave. Their urges to run have taken over, but they're not recognizing that it is them that is the issue because of a lack of self-reflection. They're not taking accountability here. What they're doing is they are doing mental gymnastics to make their urges to run their partner's fault. They're making it their partner's fault. Because if this is their partner's fault, they don't have to self-reflect and they don't have to take accountability, which means they don't have to face that inner wound of shame. that wound of shame is absolutely painful to them. In the mind of a healthy person, self-reflection is how we grow. It's, I did this wrong. This is how I can do better. That's how human beings learn and grow from their mistakes. But in the mind of a dismissive avoidant, it's, I did this wrong because I'm defective. It's proof I'm a bad person. It's too painful. It confirms their inner shame. So to avoid confronting that shame wound, they project the responsibility of their fears and insecurities onto their partner, often finding faults or manufacturing faults in their partner to justify their urges to run. Very simple things like, we're just not compatible, or they're too needy, or they're just too demanding, they are too clingy, or they like Italian food and I don't, or they like scary movies and I like dramas. See, it's never going to work out anyway. They rationalize it to justify their insecurities, to avoid self-reflection by making it their partner's fault. But they don't communicate this until they finally exit. Stage 6, they leave. It's blindsiding to the person that's getting broken up with. They feel like they're getting discarded, thrown in the trash. There was no communication. There was no opportunities to address the issues because dismissive avoidance fear expressing their emotions. They fear communication. They fear confrontation, so they bottle it up and they hold it in. And then when they finally exit, it feels like a complete rug pull to the other person. At best, the other person may have sensed that they were pulling away, but when they asked if everything was fine, the dismissive avoidant said, everything's fine. So there was no communication, no opportunity. But at this point, the dismissive avoidant is completely deactivated. They've taken any remaining feelings for their partner, suppressed them and buried them, and blocked off access to those feelings. By detaching emotionally, they keep themselves safe and they avoid having to feel the painful emotions of the breakup and avoid the shame that comes with accountability for how they hurt the other person. They've completely shut down, they've blocked off the emotions, and yeah, they've also blocked off empathy, and they can be completely stone cold. Because showing empathy, taking accountability would mean confirming that shame, and it's too scary for them. So they blindside the other person, very little communication, no closure, no empathy, and if anything, blaming the other person. Stage 7, I'm feeling relief, but now I'm starting to feel lonely. Initially, they feel relief. Oh, I'm so glad I was never meant to be in a relationship. I'm so much better single. They justify it, and then they distract themselves through various activities. Could be diving more into work, taking vacations, traveling, hanging out with friends, or getting into a rebound relationship in some cases. But they avoid and escape. But eventually, that loneliness catches up with them, and that feeling of freedom and independence morphs into, I am feeling lonely. I don't have any connection. And now they start to wonder if they'll ever find love. And that brings to stage 8. Why can't I ever just meet the right person? Still avoiding accountability for their roles in failed relationships, avoiding accountability for their insecurities, because it's just bad luck. They just can't seem to find the right person. But when they find the right person, they won't feel this way. So now they're ruminating on why they just can't seem to meet the right person, the person of their dreams, and they're again fantasizing about the fantasy perfect relationship. One where it's surface level, there's no vulnerability, it's light and easy, there's no deep commitment, there's no conflict, no expectations. That relationship doesn't exist in real life, but that's what they're fantasizing about. Now at this phase, they are lonely and they're wanting that love. So they'll either go one of two directions. They'll either start to breadcrumb their ex to get that validation and potentially get back together, especially if that person was in no contact, or they jump back into the dating pool and start the cycle all over again with somebody else. And this cycle can go on and on and on and on throughout their entire life, over and over and over again, failed relationship after failed relationship, until they either expire or take accountability, self-reflect, do the inner work, which should include therapy, heal, become secure, and learn new attachment behavioral patterns.